throughout the year. To learn more, call them today at 270-365-0227 to make an appointment. Walk-ins are also welcome.
It's time for your SportsEdge.com Sideline Report with Todd Griffin. Talking sports and more here on 1580, 103.3 WPKY and worldwide at WPKYonline.com. Here's your host, Todd Griffin.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sideline Report on 1580, 103.3 WPKY. This is Todd Griffin in the studio this morning, and we're joined by Scott Brown of your Sports Edge. Good morning, Scott. How's everything going this morning?
Good morning. Going well.
Great to have you in the studio. Welcome to Princeton, and what's new in the world of sports over in the your Sports Edge land?
Well, it's going to fire back up with some district basketball tonight, heading into the weekend, and I know in the 7th District, Caldwell and Madisonville and Hopkins Central and Dawson getting right back into district play. 5th District does as well tomorrow night. So I think you're going to see the postseason picture kind of come into shape in the next couple of weeks now that everybody has gone to seeding to kind of see who's going to play who.
We're going to get to all that, and we'll talk about the West Kentucky Hoops Classic a little bit too. And a little bit later on this morning, Chris George is going to join us from Bowling Green, and he is fresh back from a trip to Orlando to watch his Cats win in the Citrus Bowl over Penn State. So a big win there, and we'll talk to Chris a little bit later. But Scott and I have a lot coming up, so stay with us as the Sideline Report continues.
All the hype of the holidays, and in a flash, it's gone. But what doesn't leave in any hurry are the extra bills and expenses you may have tallied up this season. If the financial excess of the holiday season has you worried, visit ABC Finance. Start the year in control of your finances with the help of ABC Finance. We offer loans from $500 to $12,000, plus no payment until February. Apply online at abcfinanceonline.com or stop by our locations on Fort Campbell Boulevard in Hopkinsville and the Princeton Plaza in Princeton. All the hype of the holidays, and in a flash, it's gone. But what doesn't leave in any hurry are the extra bills and expenses you may have tallied up this season. If the financial excess of the holiday season has you worried, visit ABC Finance. Start the year in control of your finances with the help of ABC Finance. We offer loans from $500 to $12,000, plus no payment until February. Apply online at abcfinanceonline.com or stop by our locations on Fort Campbell Boulevard in Hopkinsville and the Princeton Plaza in Princeton.
Always the best. Ladies and gentlemen, after closing yesterday to prepare, it's the final weekend of red tag reductions on everything at Herb Hayes Furniture and Mattress. Shop exciting red tag reductions on living room, dining room, and bedroom furniture. Buy with interest-free financing for up to 3 full years. The final weekend of the Big Red Riot. Shop until 6 tonight at Herb Hayes Furniture and Mattress, where you always get the best selection, the best furniture at the best price. On the Boulevard in Hopkinsville. Always the best.
Remember to do your patriotic duty and nominate your favorite local business for the Best of Western Kentucky. Nominations start January 7th for the Best of Western Kentucky.
We continue on the Sideline Report on a Thursday morning at 1580, 103.3 WPKY. Todd Griffin in the studio this morning with Scott Brown of your SportsEdge.com. And Scott, just a whole lot of basketball action getting ready to go, as you mentioned before the break there. And looking ahead, lots of things coming up. You've got the All-A Classic is on the horizon. The Kentucky 2A Championships are coming up. So it's about to get busy for a lot of us who cover the sports.
And, an interesting, I don't want to say fallout to that, because if, in the Class A, Lyon and Trigg and UHA have dealt with this for years, but already I've been getting notifications from athletic directors that if this team wins in the 2A or the All-A, we're going to have to cancel the game coming up later on because they're going to need that schedule slot for the 2A. And so that's kind of an interesting situation with some of the teams this year that, all 8 teams have always had to do that. Lyon, Caldwell have tried to, drop a game here and there because they may have went a little farther in the All-A. Now, with the 2A coming in, you're going to see Caldwell, Union, Callaway, Trigg teams like that are going to have to really do that as well. So that's one fallout from that, but I think it's good. I've always been a proponent for class sports, and I don't think that this is going to jumpstart that the way some people think it is going to. But at the same time, though, I remember when Trigg County won the All-A in 1997, only time they've ever done that. There were more people at the All-A state tournament, I think, in Richmond than there were when they went to the Sweet 16 later that year. And you ask them about that All-A championship, that's not tainted in any way. They still say 97 was the year that Trigg won the All-A and the region.
I'm not sure why some people get hooked into that, more classes diminishes things. That I think if you win a championship, you win a championship. Nobody's ever turned down a football championship because it was only a 2A or a 3A championship. I think some people are probably a little scared to get away from the tradition, is the argument everybody makes when they talk about the single class system in most Kentucky high school sports. But I'm not really sure. Nothing is diminished by winning the Class A championship or the 2A or the 3A. I mean, this is something that every other state does.
Go 10 miles down the road and ask the people at Lyon County about their girls going to the All-A state tournament last year, if they felt that was cheapened any.
Yeah.
And there's not a person in the room that'll say that it was. That is a region championship. They went and played in a state tournament. First time in 10 years they had done that. I mean, they got an escort. All the kids were out to wish the buses, send the buses off. I mean, they didn't sneak out of town at night and go play in that. That was a big thing for that community. You go to other places in the community and you drive in, and those little green signs say home of so and so, the 2012 Class A state champions. I mean, they recognize that and honor that. And it seems to me the people that don't want to see classing or that kind of poo-poo the whole thing are people who went to big schools or live in big cities with big schools. And that's, I think that's another reason why, as long as the people are in Lexington right now overseeing the KHSAA, until they get someone from out in the state, it'll be that way.
I do understand somewhat the tradition aspect and where people are coming from when they say that, but when you talk about the larger schools, some of those people almost act like you're trying to take something away from them. Mm-hmm. And my argument is, no, you can still compete for a championship. It's just some of the smaller schools will have their day too.
I'm not a proponent of every kid gets a trophy. I'm not that way at all.
Yeah, that's not what we're saying.
Right, and I don't believe that I don't believe in participation, medals and things of that nature. There's you play sports and keep score for a reason, and lessons are taught by winning, and losing. But there's a reason why Transylvania and Kentucky do not compete in the same conference.
Right.
They're located in the same city. All right, but there's a reason why. There's a reason why, Fisk and Vanderbilt don't compete in the same conference. There's a reason why Spalding and Louisville don't compete in the same conference. And it has to do with the size of school and the size in which you're drawing from. That's the thing is, Hickman County is a small school. They're also only drawing from 8,000 people, maybe. It's the only school, but they're drawing from 8,000. Henderson County is the only school in their county. They're drawing from 60, 70,000 maybe. That's just how it is. That's, I get it, and I understand why it is, and a lot of people have that winner-take-all mentality, and that's how they want it to be. And I've always said, I'm okay keeping basketball the way it is, just class everything else. Because soccer and volleyball are two sports that are just begging to be classed.
Well, I think a lot of people are scared, though, that if that ever happens, that's just the next step.
Julian Tackett told me that. Yeah. I interviewed him a few years back and asked him about that, and he said, he flat out told me that they will not class the other sports because that will open the door for discussion. Baseball just about went. They had a proposal laid out. The coach from, I think it was Rowan County, went before the Board of Control and presented the layout, said, here's how we can do it. It'll go 3 classes. Here's how we do championship weekend. It was signed off by 85% of the coaches statewide, and the KHSAA never brought it before a vote. And the coach is like, look, you told me if I brought it, you'd consider it. They didn't bring it before a vote to do that, and that was just window dressing.
Well, and if you look at some of the sports now, the people in charge of the coaches associations, those people are actually doing their all-state teams by classes.
Softball is that way.
Even though there's no real classes.
Right. We could spend 3 hours talking about this, about the classification part. Like I said, just go to Eddyville and ask Jeff Doom and the Lady Lions what last year's region championship meant to them, and getting to play at McBrayer Arena, even though they lost their first round game, what that experience meant. And I guarantee you it's not cheapened in any way. And they're going to put a banner up for that. I mean, it's not cheapened.
Well, and one of my arguments has been that things have changed. Originally when there was one big class, smaller schools at least had some kind of chance to compete because there were so many schools that you didn't really have the mega schools out there that, had the advantage where they could, pretty much win everything. Even going back 30 or 40 years, I think some of the smaller schools had a chance. But the way things are broken down today, and you see consolidation and larger schools and more people moving into the big cities, it's just tough at this point. It's not the same as it was 30 years ago or 50 years ago or 60 years ago.
I blame Bo Davenport at Edmonson County. Louisville schools had dominated the Sweet 16, and there was a move in 1976 to classify basketball, and little Edmonson County went and won the Sweet 16, knocked off, I think they knocked off either a Lexington or Louisville school, Henry Clay maybe, in the semifinals. Weren't supposed to do that, or maybe Christian County did, but they met Christian County in the championship and beat the Colonels. And after that, now all of a sudden, hey, little guy can win it. There's no need to classify.
Right.
So had a Louisville or Lexington school won the state championship in 1976, we today would be talking about class basketball. And, we talk about class basketball in Lyon County. I think 2 of their best teams ever were robbed of a championship in 90 and 91 because they had to play Christian County and had to play Henderson County in the region tournament.
Yeah, it's tough when you have to go against the bigger schools. And, again, I understand the tradition argument. I used to be right there with those people, as a matter of fact. And but when you start covering it and you start watching and you really take it all into account, it's just really difficult in this day and age for the smaller schools. And like I said, it's not just here, it's all over. If you're pulling from a few hundred students, you're not going to have the same success typically if you have 2,000 students in your school. But one thing I do want to talk about this morning was the West Kentucky Hoops Classic last week at the Cab Gym. And, of course, you're a good one to talk to because you sat there and watched every game and kept score every game. And just what were your overall thoughts of the way things went last week?
I thought it was a much better event than last year, and I'm not taking anything away from last year. I think Tori Hammett does a fantastic job of bringing schools in. If you've never run a tournament of any kind at any level, you will not understand the work that goes into doing that. Whether you're putting together a youth baseball tournament or basketball tournament or putting together a high school tournament of this caliber, you just don't understand the level of work that goes behind that, of getting accommodations. Where are they going to stay, and making sure there's people that can get them to the high school, and not get lost, and get their kids fed. And kudos to him. Last year they had those prep schools come in. There's a lot of drama, and quite frankly, I didn't think the quality of basketball was that good with them being prep schools. I mean, I was more impressed with the schools they had this year. I'd rather watch a high-quality high school, public high school play at any time. And he brought some quality teams in and played. And, I mean, it was good basketball for the 2 days. And I was very impressed, more impressed this year than I was last year. I thought last year's was pretty good. I thought this year's was very good.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was. I really enjoyed last year's event, but this year it just seemed like everything just ran more smoother than it had in the past. Like I said, there wasn't any drama, and I think most of that was probably brought on by one team last year. You know, you had one bad egg, and and that was probably the whole deal there. But just some great games. You couldn't have finished the tournament any better the last 3 games. You had a couple of one-point games, and then Caldwell and Clarksville Northeast played a really good game. I think that was a 2-point game with about 4 minutes to go before Northeast ended up winning that game by 9 points over the Tigers. So, you know, that was a strong finish to what was a really strong event.
I don't think anybody's going to leave here feeling they were cheated out of a game. I know that the game between the team from Mississippi and the team from Oklahoma came down to the wire. And, of course, you know, whoever loses that game, oh, well, you know, it was the refs or whatever else. But they had their chances to win, you know, at the end. And that's all you can ask for in a team is, you know, to have a shot at winning. But I don't think anybody came away with that. Now, there have been years where I've seen teams, you know, especially if you go to Eastern Kentucky for a holiday tournament, you know, you're playing 5-on-8. You're down 10 points before the tip ever starts. And I've seen that, and I've seen that going out of state a few times, but I don't feel it was that way at all. I think that I think the teams from here left, you know, thinking, hey, you know, we had everything in our control, and if we won, it was because of us, and if we lost, it was because of us. I can't think back to any just egregious play that it was like, oh my gosh, they totally got that wrong, and that's what cost them the game. So I think the teams left here feeling good, and both of those schools played good competition. Caldwell County saw some good competition out of Brighton and out of Northeast. A couple of teams from Tennessee, and as we, you know, talked with Melissa Thomas, you know, Collins, even though they lost that game, that's the type of team that they're going to have to beat in the region because they remind you of a Henderson County with big guards and a big girl in the middle, or a Madisonville. I mean, that was a good matchup for them. Even though they lost the game, that prepared them for I talked with Peyton Croft, Trigg County's coach. They went to Illinois and got beat 4 games in Illinois. And he, you know, they did not match up well with those Illinois teams. But, you know, he said it's just like playing, like we're going to see if you play a Livingston or a Crittenden in the district, or if it's just like if we see a Henderson County, you know, in the region, you know, those kind of teams, you know, it's kind of like a first region team. If you go and watch first region girls basketball, it's different from the second region. It's different from the third region. And so you play those out-of-region teams to prepare you for the teams that you don't normally play in your region.
Yeah, if you're playing in a holiday event and just winning by a whole bunch, I'm not sure it's doing you a whole lot of good. You need to use the holidays to get better.
Well, I'm a big proponent of holiday tournaments. I don't feel that a team should play in one every year. But I think back when I was in high school, and I think back to some of the things I've covered through the years, and some of the more memorable times were the trips you made during the holidays to different places. You know, those guys from Oklahoma and from Mississippi come up here, and I mean, they're seeing a different part of the country and interacting with different people. And that's a good experience. That's a non-basketball experience that they're getting to deal with, and seeing how people, you know, schools run things. I mean, a lot of coaches go to holiday tournaments to see how they run their tournament.
Oh, okay.
And they'll glean ideas and say, hey, we need to do that at our tournament. You know, I know Tori was giving out the little game balls, you know, and I heard 3 coaches say that's a great idea, you know, because the kids are tired of plaques and medals. Most of them are. There's some that still probably, you know, value that. But, you know, I'm going to take that idea for their tournament that we do. I mean, you do things like that. And I'm telling you, and 2 other things that impressed me, too, about the Hoop Classic was the people at Caldwell County that work behind the scenes, whether they're in the hospitality room or the maintenance staff, making sure that everything was cleaned up. You didn't come into a dirty gym. That was impressive as far as that goes. The people working behind the scenes to make everything kind of go off without a hitch.
Yeah, there were some good teams and good players as well. You mentioned the big marquee matchup the last night was 15-0 Center Hill, Mississippi, which was ranked number 1 in the state by the time we got to that match, and Sapulpa, Oklahoma was 7-0 and ranked number 2 in their state, and came down to the wire, and Center Hill won at 78-77. The game before that, Hamilton Southeastern out of Indiana beat Webb School from Tennessee 83-82 in another barn burner. And maybe the best kid I saw out here the whole time was the guard from Webb School, Keon Johnson. He's a 4-star guard, but they use him a lot of different ways.
They did. I thought they used him as a decoy a little too much, personally. He's one of those. He is a player. Of course, Tennessee and Vanderbilt are both trying to keep him in state. Ole Miss is showing some interest in him. But last year there were times where Kiki Tandy of UHA would come down the floor, and it would be 2 or 3 possessions in a row where he never touched the ball. And when you got a player like Kiki Tandy, he needs to touch the ball every trip down the floor. And I thought there were times where Webb School kind of didn't feed him enough. He should touch the ball every trip down the floor. I'm not saying he should take a shot every time down the floor, but at least draw the defense. Because if he had the ball, 3 kids are going to be coming at him.
Oh, yeah.
Mathematics tells you, Captain Math says, that's going to leave some people open. And so I was a little surprised that there'd be times down the floor, 2, 3 trips in a row, he didn't touch the basketball. And, of course, he battled foul trouble. The last game, fouled out, still had like 36 points and 12 rebounds, despite sitting 6 or 7 minutes because of foul trouble.
Yeah, some players come in with a lot of hype, and then you just don't really see it. But that kid looked to be the real deal to me.
Yes, I was impressed by him. I really was. And the guard from Center Hill that's going to IUPUI, he was impressive too. There was some good talent that come in. Somebody asked me, about the Caldwell County game, with Northeast, and I said that the difference is that Caldwell County's got Darian Boyd, but Center Hill's got 3 of them.
Yeah.
Northeast's got 2 of them. And that kind of proves to be the difference, from time to time, is that. And I'm not taking anything away from Caldwell's team. I'm just saying, though, Caldwell's got an outstanding player, but those the Center Hill team, man, they had 3 of them that were just phenomenal. That'll probably play Division I or High Division II. I mean, that were just very impressive. So, again, hats off, for that. That's a good event, and that's a type of event that the community wins because they're out and about in the community. They're eating, getting pizza or eating at your places. They're going to Hibbett's or they're going here to kind of shop. I know one of the teams stayed in Cadiz, so Cadiz benefits from that. Eddyville benefits from that kind of tournament. Princeton benefits from that kind of tournament, and you never know. As I get older, names escape me, but I know of a high school coach that retired to a community all because they played in a holiday tournament there during his coaching days.
Oh, really?
He and his wife fell in love with the place, and when he got done teaching and coaching, they moved there strictly because of a holiday basketball tournament they played in.
We're talking with Scott Brown of YourSportsEdge.com on the Sideline Report this morning, and stay with us. We'll have more right after this.
Here's your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast.
Partly sunny skies today with a high of 45. There's a 30% chance of rain moving into the forecast overnight with an overnight low around 37. Rain will continue tomorrow with a high near 45. 20% chance of rain tomorrow night with a low of 34. Saturday will be sunny. High will be 53 on Saturday. Saturday night, mostly clear with an overnight low around 38. Again, today is partly sunny with a high of 45.
Your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast is brought to you by Brantley Furniture.
Are you looking for America's greatest grill? A Holland Grill from Fortner Gas Company. Holland Grills are the only grills guaranteed not to flare up and are proudly made in America. Stop by or give us a call at Fortner Gas and we will give you the best deal on a Holland Grill. Treat yourself or someone special this season with a Holland Grill from Fortner Gas Company, located on Highway 62 West in Princeton.
The Sideline Report continues on 1580 103.3 WPKY. Don't forget about Dave's Deal of the Week at U-Ride in Princeton. This week it's a 2000 Jeep Wrangler. It's gray in color, just $7,000. Contact Dave at 270-365-3215. That's U-Ride, 310 Marion Road in Princeton, and ask for Dave's Deal of the Week. We're talking with Scott Brown of YourSportsEdge.com this morning on the Sideline Report, and Scott, a pretty big milestone hit by Your Sports Edge last month, and some big numbers being put up again this month.
Yeah, the response we've gotten with YourSportsEdge.com has been fantastic. December was one of the best months we've had in terms of the number of people going to the site. It continues to increase, and what's impressive about that is, well, first off, I'll say this, is that one thing about YourSportsEdge.com is it's one of the few sites in local sports or in sports around that is really done on analytics. I mean, we really pay attention to the analytics as far as who's viewing the site, where they're viewing it from, the time of day they're viewing it from. And so we try and pattern, the time of day that stories are put up on the site, things of that nature. I don't think I can honestly say that since we launched in August of 2017, there's not been a day that I've not looked at the analytics site to see. I mean, even on vacation, I'll pull it up on my phone and say, hey, we're having a good day or whatever else. With that said, holidays are kind of a iffy time, because people are doing other things and they're not on the internet as much. And so, we work hard over the holiday period to make sure that stuff's up on the site and try and get people to look. And so they did this past month especially. So, we're grateful. But, yeah, things are going really good right now. And, ecstatic to have you come aboard and be a part of it. And I think it means better and great things as far as the coverage goes, and not just for Caldwell County. I mean, overall as a whole as well. So, yeah, things are going great. The response has been fantastic, and we appreciate everybody who goes to YourSportsEdge.com and reads the stories or looks at the pictures or clicks on the video and looks at the video interviews we do with the kids and the coaches.
It looks like we have a whole lot of work coming up with all these games coming up, and we mentioned before the All-A Classic is on the way and the Kentucky 2A Championships are coming up, and it's several schools that YourSportsEdge.com follows.
It is. Caldwell County is part of the 2A Championships. Lyon County and UHA part of the Class 1A. For those who don't know, YourSportsEdge.com is centered on 9 schools that we cover. It's not an exclusive thing, though. Madisonville went to the King of the Bluegrass, and since we were already there, we covered some Madisonville events there. We're covering, getting some Dawson Springs results on there. 2 of our top stories from all of 2018 were from Marshall County. Stories we did about Marshall County. So we're not exclusive to the 9 schools that we cover, but those are the 9 schools that we cover. We're not going to, show up at 30 Webster County games, but if they're playing a big team or a big game or whatever, we may be there. I mean, you never know, but So we center on the 9 schools that we cover, but it's not an exclusive thing, and that 9 may grow at some point down the road. You never know. I mean, it's interesting. Within the first 6 months of launching the site, we had people from 7 different schools contact us and say, what do we got to do to be one of your schools that weren't one of the 9? And I mean, geography, you can kind of guess who they are. And I think that says a lot there. But, yeah, I'm just excited about how things have gone, where things are going, and the coverage as well. One of the things we're going to release later today, we list the top 5 viewed stories involving Caldwell County, which is kind of an interesting list, and it covers a couple of different sports. So be on the lookout for that probably after lunch today. But and you'll have a chance to click and go to those stories to see exactly which ones they were, to kind of jog your memory if you need to.
It's always interesting to look at those numbers, and we talked about the top 10 stories for last year, and it was just kind of interesting to see which ones got the most hits, because you never really know going in which story you post is going to draw the most attention.
One of the most viewed stories we had on yoursportsedge.com had nothing to do with a team or an athlete from the state of Kentucky. And what happened was last year, right around Christmas, a basketball team from Iowa was going back home from a tournament in Nashville, and the bus driver collapsed while driving the bus going down the road in Trigg County. And one of the assistant coaches grabbed the wheel of this charter bus and was able to steer it off the road. They called for an ambulance and got the bus driver off. Well, that bus driver, or that assistant coach, probably saved a bunch of lives, by acting quickly and able to get a charter bus going 60, 65 miles per hour, safely off the road. And so the fact that bus driver saved lives, well, that kind of turns into a national story in a way. And it just happened to have happened in Trigg County. And so that story was one of the top 5 viewed stories. Had nothing to do with that. A simple act by Riley Thomas of Caldwell County at a volleyball match, where the umpire called a ball, in during a volleyball match, and she corrected him, said, no, it was out, and that cost Caldwell County a point. Just that simple gesture, turned into a story, and that one was one of the top 10 stories that, were viewed. And so you never know. I mean, that's the one thing about this. I've done interviews with kids, and I thought, man, that's a really good interview. And then it doesn't do what you think it's going to do, and you interview somebody else, and it does. Or you get video of a fantastic catch in a baseball game that doesn't, generate a whole lot of stuff. But then you take a video of softball players dancing in the dugout, and it's the most viewed video. I mean, it's kind of like the old, the cats that look like Elvis or something. It's one of the most viewed things on YouTube. I mean, who would have thought?
Yeah, you just never know.
You really don't. And so you just have to put stuff up and kind of see what people want to see.
So check all that out at yoursportsedge.com, and lots of stuff on there and lots of stuff going up daily. So, you want to check all the time to see what's up there.
Yeah, you had a good update on Eli Pepper last night. Did not realize he was closing in on a rebounding record at Lipscomb.
Yeah, a 4-year starter at Lipscomb. He's a senior now, but Lipscomb looking like one of those teams that nobody wants to draw in the NCAA tournament. That team can shoot the ball, and it's got some experience. It was conference champs last year, played North Carolina in the NCAA tournament. So, yeah, good things going on there. And Eli's been putting up some big numbers, just consistently going out and getting points and rebounds.
And they've been on TV a lot. Yeah. Here this year. The last couple of years, they've upgraded their schedule, and that helps. But they've been on TV a lot. I've seen a lot of him on TV, more probably in the last 2 years than I did the previous 2.
We need to get to another break here on the show, and we're going to get Chris George on the phone and talk to him a little bit as well. So stay with us on the Sideline Report.
Here's your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast.
Partly sunny skies today with a high of 45. There's a 30% chance of rain moving into the forecast overnight with an overnight low around 37. Rain will continue tomorrow with a high near 45. 20% chance of rain tomorrow night with a low of 34. Saturday will be sunny. High will be 53 on Saturday. Saturday night mostly clear with an overnight low around 38. Again, today is partly sunny with a high of 45.
Your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast is brought to you by Penny Ryle District Health.
Hi, Caldwell County. I'm Allie Coleman with First Southern National Bank, and I'm ready to service your next loan. Whether you're wanting to build your first home, buy an investment property, or add square footage for your growing family, we can tailor a solution just for you. Stop by my office at 101 West Washington Street in Princeton, or give me a call at 270-365-3545 to apply today. First Southern National Bank, Equal Housing Lender, Federal Registry 409424, NMLS 1002990.
Remember to do your patriotic duty and nominate your favorite local business for the best of Western Kentucky. Nominations start January 7th for the best of Western Kentucky.
The Sideline Report continues on a Thursday morning at 1580 103.3 WPKY. Scott Brown in the studio with us this morning, and Chris George joining us on the phone line right now. Chris, how's it going?
Well, Todd, going pretty good. Recovering from the journey back from Orlando, but a little bit cold here up north.
That's always the worst part about coming back from Florida. It never fails, and it never matters what time of year you go to Florida. It's always 15 degrees colder when you get back to Kentucky.
Well, Scott, the funny thing was we drove down, and as we were driving, even though it was night on Sunday, the temperature gauge in the car kept going up, up, and up, so we were happy. Coming back north yesterday, as the day went on, the temperature gauge was going down.
Yeah,
and we were sad.
Not as many stops to get out and stretch your legs when you're coming back home as it is going down, I'm sure.
Absolutely does. And as Todd will tell you, cold and I are not on good terms.
No, I'm with you.
Well, Chris, what was the vibe like there in Orlando with the Cats? I saw some of the stuff you were posting on Facebook before the game. Looked like a big turnout for Big Blue Nation.
I would say the crowd was probably right about 50-50, Todd. It was yesterday I was talking to Joey Randolph about the game, and you'll remember this, Todd, because you were there. I likened that crowd on New Year's Day to the crowd for the Rich Brooks Group First Music City Bowl. How it was just a crazy atmosphere. It was like that Rich Brooks bunch that went to that First Music City Bowl. That it was just Cat fans everywhere, and they really was just like, we're just here to see what's going on, and we're excited. And it was a great crowd, and both teams played so hard for a bowl game that really just is more so a glorified exhibition. But both teams played hard like they were playing for a conference championship. It meant that much to both teams and both fan bases that day, and it was great.
Well, I was going to say one of the better bowl games that we've seen, and, Kentucky kind of had that look about them once again that they might blow a lead, but I think this team is finally getting over some of those things that seem like plagued Kentucky for years and years and years.
Todd, you like I've been there for a lot of the heartbreak and disappointment. I wasn't thinking impending doom New Year's Day. I was like, I wasn't. I was like, they're going to find a way. They now find a way to win those games when things get a little bit too close. Unlike in the past where I would have been thinking, okay, what's going to go wrong? Where's Devery Henderson? Where's Channing Crowder? What's getting ready to happen? I didn't have those thoughts, and I think that's a lot to do with this team and Mark Stoops as this coach, that they're going to find a way.
Well, just watching the game on TV, it looked like there was a big crowd there, and that's something else that we haven't really seen in some of these bowl games. Attendance has been sparse at a lot of them, but it looked like the Citrus Bowl was almost full for that game.
They announced 59,000, like 150 and some change. And really, when you looked at the stadium, there was only in the upper deck in one corner on each side was about 8 or 10 completely empty rows. Otherwise, it was packed. Penn State people were everywhere. Kentucky people were everywhere. No matter where you went in Orlando, the game had a presence in the city because people were asking questions about, we're seeing a lot of people wear this blue, the UK blue shirt. What are you all doing here? What's going on? Because we've seen a lot of these shirts. So it was a huge presence.
Kentucky with a 27-24 win over Penn State in the Citrus Bowl, and Kentucky going 10-3. And, of course, on TV, the big thing was this is the best Kentucky team ever. I'm not sure if I'm ready to go there yet, but I think this team is really good and has really cemented its place in UK lore.
Todd, I can't really say ever because I don't have the mileage behind me to call them ever. To me, they're the best team of my lifetime.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And their record alone says a lot about them. I believe they should be remembered along with the greatest teams in Kentucky history, because just the fact that you got the all-time sack leader and the all-time leading rusher on the same team, that tells you a little bit about what this team has been doing.
I liken this to the Patino basketball team that went to the Final Four and lost to the Fab Four. Even though they didn't win a national championship that year, though, they made a good run, and kind of that was the team. Even though everybody talks about the unforgettables that lost to Duke on the Leitner shot, I think the team that actually went to the Final Four was the basketball team that said, hey, UK basketball is now, we're back. That wasn't just a one-year thing. And I think people will look at this football team the same way, that this is the team that has bounced back and now we're there.
I think that's very appropriate, Scott, to put it that way. And I've been reading some stuff on Twitter, and the so-called college football experts are starting to say, Kentucky football is here. They're not. I was watching something this morning, pretty much saying that, look for Kentucky to take that next step to where 6-6, 7-5 is a bad year for them.
Right. It's not. It's not just a season where, hey, we made a bowl.
Right.
We want now. I think Kentucky wants to go to a good bowl. They want to be there on New Year's Day and get, primetime placement. They don't want to go to the Poulan Weed Eater Bowl and play, Idaho State. Some years, you were watching that Vandy game and saying, "Whoo, we got to beat Vandy in order to get that 6th win." And yeah, I'm with you. I think now, I think exactly. I think Kentucky people are going to be holding out for the big bowls now.
Scott, that's so funny you say that, man. There's been so many years, and Todd would tell you that I just said, I don't care what bowl we go to, as long as we get 6 wins and go to a bowl.
Yes.
Yeah, just get to 6 wins so we can go someplace.
Right. So let me ask you a question. When Kentucky's up and they start the second half and Benny Snell scores the touchdown, they get the ball back, and it's like third down, inside the 5, and Eddie Gran brings out the reverse that loses yards. Is there a big groan that goes up at the stadium from the UK faithful on that? Because I like Eddie Gran, and I've always said that Eddie Gran is the smartest offensive mind in the room. But there are times where he wants to prove that.
Yeah.
And he says, you know what? We've been running the ball with Benny Snell. Let's outsmart him and run a reverse. No, dude, keep giving him the ball.
See, I think that's been an issue all year. There's been several times where I'm like, just give the ball to Benny.
Give it to him.
Yeah, don't make this complicated.
You got a once-in-a-lifetime back in your backfield. You're running a reverse, or you're throwing the ball to a receiver that has more drops than catches. But what was the crowd like as Penn State is kind of making that comeback and completing passes and driving down the field? It's was there a lot of surrender cobras going on with fans with their hands over their head, or do you feel like the the UK fan base was able to energize them and keep them going there late?
I was sitting in a section. Of course, I'm an end zone guy. If you could tell me I could take a seat anywhere in the stadium. Most people would run to the 50-yard line. I would run to the end zone if I could have the first pick of every pick in the stadium. So I was in the end zone. End zone was kind of mixed of Penn State and Kentucky. During that comeback, more so, there was one guy in our section that was yelling to give the ball to Benny because he was very upset that Benny was not getting the ball what he thought was enough, as the game seemed like it was getting away. But it didn't. It was kind of like people were in shock as to what is going on, and they're trying to figure out how to stop the bleeding. Now, as far as myself, I don't want you all to get any FCC issues, so I can't say what I said when he ran the reverse. Todd could probably off the air tell you what I said.
Yeah, well, I have a good idea. Yeah. I'm sure it's the same thing a lot of Kentucky fans were saying it, watching that play unfold. And like I said, I think he's done a good job with the personnel he's had at Kentucky, but there are just times where I think he wants to say, you know what, I'm going to show people just how smart I am and outsmart everybody. And it just, because, I mean, for the most part, especially in that third quarter, I thought he called a really good third quarter, except for that reverse. And and the problem with that is, even though they got a field goal, Penn State got momentum because they got a big stop inside the 10-yard line, and it was that momentum. All of a sudden, now they're clicking. Now they're driving down the field and scoring at will. And that's one of those cases where if Kentucky just punches that ball in the end zone, I don't think Penn State makes a comeback.
I thought with you. I disagreed with the call of the reverse. And if you're going to run the reverse, that's not who I'm running the reverse with. I'm not running with Taven Richardson.
Right.
I'm running it with any of another number of people. But I was already angry because anytime they run Wildcat, and Todd will tell you, I'm a Wildcat guy. I yell for the Caldwell County Tigers, run Wildcat. But I always want to Caldwell to run Wildcat with Trail Raleigh more. But I was yelling, why are we running Wildcat? Give the ball to Benny.
The Wildcats
and I turned up.
I think the Wildcat's effective when you got a back who will throw the ball. The Wildcat was effective with Randall Cobb because Randall Cobb could throw the football. So when Randall Cobb lines up in the Wildcat, you don't know if he's going to run it or if he's going to throw it. And they would also put a receiver in the slot or a running back in the slot and run the option. All right? So now you don't know if he runs, is he going to keep it or is he going to option it off? When Benny Snell lines up in the Wildcat,
I don't think he handed that thing off one time.
He's going to run. He's going to run every time. And, I don't know. Again, I think it goes back to, it's like when you see teams that have the ball first and goal at the 1 and they line up in the shotgun. Get over center and fall over and you're in the end zone. You're in the shotgun.
4th and 1.
Yeah, you're lining up in the shotgun and handing the ball off 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. You got to gain 6 yards now to get a first down instead of just falling down and getting a first down. I'm with you. I kind of wish he'd remove the Wildcat from the playbook and trust Terry Wilson to throw downfield a little more. But other than that, I thought in that third quarter he called a good game, and I thought when Penn State made the comeback, now it's like I think Stoops kind of got in the earphone, said, "Quit being cute and just give Snell the ball."
Right.
I turned to a Penn State fan sitting beside me after that reverse and said, I want to burn his playbook right now.
I just want to burn that play. I mean, I think he had some good play calls, but the Wildcat and the reverse was not his. There's always that point in the game when you watch Kentucky where people are saying, Eddie Gran, there's Eddie Gran going to Eddie Gran. That's the. Well, I'm not sure what he was thinking there, but he kind of, things are going good, and he's like, you know what? It's like Tecmo Bowl. If you played Tecmo Bowl growing up and you were playing the Raiders with Bo Jackson and you're scoring touchdowns with Bo, and then you decide, you know what, I got Vince Evans at quarterback. Let me throw a pass. And then it gets intercepted. that's the Eddie Grand philosophy right there. It's like, no, keep giving Bo Jackson the ball and score all the time.
Yeah, I agree. He frustrates me a lot.
Well, Chris, what were some of the Penn State fans saying about Kentucky? To me, one of the key plays in the game was that early play where Penn State had the fake punt, and that's like right out of the gate. Kentucky ended up with only 3 points out of that, but I thought that was a pretty big turning point, and didn't really understand why they did that. What were the Penn State fans having to say about the game?
Well, they were, like Scott said, for most of the third quarter, they were sitting on their hands complaining about where their quarterback was, what was going on with McSorley, why wasn't he playing. Lots of people around me were texting and calling people, trying to see what was being said on TV because they were trying to figure out what was going on with him. And they were quiet, but I believe the Penn State people did not realize the Big Blue Nation is not just about basketball. The Big Blue Nation is about Kentucky sports. And I say that because of something I overheard. We were standing out for the catwalk, and they unloaded a Penn State fan bus in a parking lot, and they had to walk by the catwalk. And as they were walking by, you could hear multiple people talking about, what are they doing, and why are so many of them here? What are they doing? They've got a lot of people. What is this? And they're trying to figure out about this catwalk, and already 30, 45 minutes before the catwalk, probably 2,000 people were already in line for the catwalk, and they were just overwhelmed by the support for what they probably consider to be a basketball sport.
Yeah, that always kind of bugs me because I think Kentucky fans have shown they will support a team that's competitive, not just winning. I mean, 10 games is great, 10 wins, but Kentucky fans have shown up for a lot of teams that weren't really that good and for a lot of bowl games that weren't really that big.
Ask Atlanta.
Yeah, so when you hear the people on TV say, well, Kentucky fans are just waiting for basketball season to start or to head back to Rupp Arena, that's not really accurate.
Yeah. They were Penn State, they're an interesting fan base to me. I call them a little bit snobbish.
I think that's probably a Big Ten thing.
It is. I'd say that's very accurate, and I think you kind of get the same way with Michigan fans as well when you're dealing with that. But they're a football school, and there is no basketball. You ask a lot of people, they don't know if Penn State has a basketball team or not, and you don't hear about Penn State in any other sport except for football, and so that they're pushing all their chips in. With that bowl game. But,
by the same token, Kentucky basketball fans are typically pretty arrogant just because, you've had that success, and that's what the fans expect from then on.
But not arrogant. They weren't necessarily arrogant as much as they were. It was really, like I said, they were really just kind of all about themselves. They, usually when you go to bowl games, you can count on talking to people, where are you from, kind of things, wanting to know. They were all about themselves. They, pretty much don't bother us.
So it's kind of like going to Cincinnati. kind of the same way there. If you go to any sporting event in Cincinnati, it's kind of the same way there. And you talk about that fake punt, though, and we talk about Eddie Gran. James Franklin is just as bad as Eddie Gran. James Franklin will make some play calls that leave you scratching your head, and him kicking that field goal. And I know he had 3 timeouts left at the end
and 4 minutes.
And 4 minutes, but you're driving down the field and scoring. And even if you don't punch it in for a touchdown, you've kind of shown the ability to maybe get a stop, and you could still use those timeouts and come back and try it again. Because when he went for the field goal, I made the comment. I said, if they run with Snell, they're not getting the ball back.
Right.
Now we're just going to have to wait and see. And there's some history between Stoops and Franklin from the Vanderbilt days. Yeah. And so I think Franklin thought, I'll just try and kind of run that fake punt because I think I can. And I think that cost him a little bit. I think Franklin, I think he kind of made a few play calls that he probably wished he had back.
That stop by Kentucky really gave them a lot of confidence, I thought, in that game.
Stoops took his shot at Franklin post game too, about in the post game in the stadium when they did the trophy presentation.
Correct.
He said, "There's no doubt about who the real blue and white is," and that was kind of, I think, from what I understand, Franklin had taken the first shot in a press conference about showing who the real blue and white is going to be. But yeah, there's no love lost between those two.
No, I think that kind of added to the ball game as well. I think that added to a little bit of the intensity, and I think UK channeled that from their coach, and I think Penn State channeled that with their coach as well. I think that's what made it, for two teams with no history, other than the fact they played 20 years ago in a bowl game. There's a lot of intensity between the two schools. A couple of shoves out of bounds, and a couple of flags after the whistle, and again, I think that was a direct relationship to the two coaches.
Yeah, Franklin I've never been that impressed with Franklin. But he, like you said, Scott, he seems to be very impressed with himself.
He is, and he's a good recruiter. I mean, he's getting he got some good, players to Vanderbilt, and I think he'll get some good players to Penn State, even though McSorley's not one of his players. And I was impressed with him. Holy cow. I mean, he hobbles back on the field, and from what you read on social media, he's got a broken leg.
Oh, wow.
And then all of a sudden the limp disappears, and now he's out there looking like Brett Favre, throwing and running all over the place, and single-handedly leading the comeback. I've seen him play, and usually when I see him play, it's not his best, but wow, he was impressive.
That was a pretty good Penn State team too.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, it sounds like you had a great trip down to Orlando. Got to see a big win for the Cats. Can't beat that. Thanks for joining us on the show this morning. Anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
Oh, I did have one more thing, Todd.
Okay.
And people shouldn't sleep on this Kentucky team, this future Kentucky team. I think Stoops has got them set that it's going to be competitive football from here on out. And I expect, and this may be something you'll want to do on a future show, is when you get closer to the NFL draft, I think they're going to have 8 or 9 guys drafted off this team.
That would be pretty big for Kentucky football.
I think that's accurate. Yeah, I think that's accurate. They could have 2 go in the first round. I know 1 and possibly 2, and just based on team need. But and they're going to have that on defense too. Of course, Kentucky's always put good linebackers into the NFL. From Trevathan to Williamson and Woodyard, but now they're going to be putting defensive backs and defensive linemen in and off. That's just unheard of.
I know it's going to be, draft day is going to be another celebration for this team because, like I said, I think over the course of the 3 days, there'll be probably Kentucky's going to be talked about at least 7 times and probably as many as 9 or 10.
All right, Chris, thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate the information.
Thank you.
Again, that sounded like a great trip.
Good to hear from you.
You too, Chris.
Yes. I'll talk to you all later.
See ya. That is Chris George joining us from Bowling Green this morning and talking about just a great trip down to Orlando. If you're a Kentucky fan, Scott, it doesn't get any better than 10 wins and a bowl win.
Well, and what was impressive was it was Kentucky's first ever New Year's Day bowl win. It was the first time they'd ever won a bowl game in Florida. 10 wins for the first time in 40 years, and that triggers a $250,000 raise for Mark Stoops and adds 1 year to his contract as well. So it was some pretty big doings for Kentucky. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I don't think Mitch Barnhart gets the recognition he deserves as athletic director in bringing in the proper coaches. And I'm not just talking Calipari and Stoops. You look at Kentucky across the board. Gymnastics program is always ranked. Women's basketball has kind of had an uptick and just missed on a Final Four here not long ago. Baseball program, softball program, all across the board. They've got good coaches in place, and every year you look up, Kentucky is making a postseason run in some sport that's not just football and basketball. And I think him keeping Stoops and allowing Stoops to pay the assistants is the big thing. Vince Morrow deserves a lot of credit for this Kentucky team.
Oh, yeah, he's gotten a lot of those guys.
Benny Snell's from Ohio. Allen, was right in Penn State's backyard, and they were able to get him. And, he's gotten a lot of good talent from Ohio and other places. And so, them increasing the pay a little bit, I think, has helped there as well.
Well, Scott, I appreciate you coming over today and joining us. A lot of information on the show. We could probably go another 45 minutes, but I think we got to get out of here.
Yeah, something about getting back to programming. But, I enjoyed it. Appreciate you having me. And, again, encourage everybody to take a trip to yoursportsedge.com and bookmark that thing and check back several times a day to see what's going on there.
That is Scott Brown from yoursportsedge.com. Again, thanks to Chris George for joining us from Bowling Green this morning. That's going to wrap up another Sideline Report. Thanks for listening here on 1580 103.3 WPKY.
Serving Caldwell County since 1950. We're 1580 103.3 WPKY Princeton.
ABC News, I'm Zachary Keesh. So far, there's no movement towards ending the partial government shutdown in Washington, now at day 13. ABC's Mary